Hello, hello. It is good to be with you guys again today. Thank you so much for joining us. We are Nathaniel and Amy White, the Homemade Family. If you would like to catch some of our past podcasts, you can do that at www.thehomemadefamily.com or anywhere podcasts are found. Just search for Nathaniel and Amy White, The Homemade Family. Obviously, you can see these on any of our Facebook pages at either Nathaniel White, Amy White, or The Homemade Family. Or you can search YouTube for Nathaniel and Amy White, The Homemade Family. I think that YouTube said that they will have handles now that we can go in and put those in. I should do that. And that would be a lot easier than that. We could give you a direct address instead of just search for us on YouTube. Because unless you know us, it's kind of hard to find us on there because they always throw up so many other things related to family. But with that, last week we talked about the power of motherhood. That was really a great talk. And today, with that little clank, I'm going to move that bowl. Today we're going to talk about just some conversations that we've had in our home this week because of some interesting events that have been going on. First of all, my fourth grader, he is 9. The kids in fourth grade are usually 9 or 10 years old. He came home and he told me that one of his classmates said that he had French kissed his girlfriend. And I was like, whoa, what do you think about that, buddy? And we had some conversations around that and how that was probably a bit inappropriate. And then
and premature.
Yes. And then he came home another day and he's like, I don't want to go to school tomorrow because this kid said that he's going to bring a ring for this girl and they're going to get married. Well, then the next day there was this big event on the playground where the girl wanted nothing to do with the boy and was running from him. And then the classmates got involved and they're like trying to drag the two of them together to have this fake wedding. And
half the class is shoving them together and the other half is trying to intervene and save the girl.
Yes. So the good news is my boys were very much this young woman's defender.
Yes.
And anyway, that led to some really good conversations about dating and marriage and quality manhood. But that was not the only event that happened in our house this past week or two. We had one of our older kids come home and say that they had met somebody of the opposite sex and were having complicated emotions because they weren't sure why they felt what they were feeling. And what it turns out,
because they could tell they were crushing on somebody. Yes. But they're like, but I just met this person, so that doesn't make any sense.
And it doesn't make sense. So can you help me process this? And through conversation, we came to the conclusion, or they came to the conclusion, that part of what would make a good spouse are the same things that would make a really good friend. And they noticed the qualities in this person were different from qualities that they'd met in other people. And they thought this person would maybe make a really great friend, but there's somebody of the opposite sex. And so does that mean that you have to be like crushing on them, or
just because you think they'd make a decent friend?
Yeah. And anyway, so that again led to some good conversations. We had lots of conversations with our kids about dating. And
in fact, you can catch an episode where our two oldest joined us and they talked about dating and relationships. It was really, really good.
It was really good. Yeah. So you can go back and catch that one. But, just really appreciate the wisdom of my older kids as they are, getting to the age of almost dating. They're almost 15 and almost 14. Right now they're 14 and 13, but
so they're still like 20 years away. But
right. But these are some of the things that we talked about are the qualities to look for in somebody to see if they would be worth dating or not. Is this potential spouse material? Right. And so not only are these things then that we tell our kids like, hey, these are things that you want to look for in somebody. But you guys, these are really great indicators of things that we would like to see in
our
our own
kids.
kids so that,
Yeah.
their potential spouses, when they're out there, like potential date, are our kids date material? Are our kids, potential spouse material? Anyway,
Right.
so here are 4 or maybe 5 key things
There
that
might be a bonus one at the
There
end.
might be a bonus. We like our bonus. Okay. So why don't you jump in there?
We also like our hot tea because it's just got really
Cold.
but
It's
cold in Minnesota. So anyway, complaints about the weather aside.
Mhm.
So 4 qualities that you would love to see your kids find in a spouse. You can teach your kids to look for these things. First, you want to see how this person worships. What does that do? I mean, like, what does that tell you about a person? First of all, it tells you whether they love Jesus or not. Like, somebody can go to church, great. I know tons of people who go to church and there's like their love for Jesus is very cold. Jesus has very little actual influence in their life. And and that's not what we're looking for in a spouse. We're looking for someone who really is on fire for Jesus, someone who loves Jesus, and that's going to come out in how they worship. So, practically speaking, I mean, I don't think I need to get super practical. What does this actually mean? But like, hey, if the songs are going during worship time and they're just slumped over in their chair looking around like they're bored, they don't care, if they're consistently showing up late to worship time, if they intentionally avoid that part of church, if they're just sitting there with their arms crossed, hands in their pockets, looking like they're disengaged, the thing for me about this is they're not just disengaged from like, I get it. Not everybody enjoys all the songs. Not everybody enjoys the style of music. Not everybody enjoys whatever. But there's a choice of the will to seek the Lord. Whether you are interested in it or not, there is a choice of the will to put Jesus as a priority. And out of love for him, I'm going to come make this sacrifice of praise. I know Jesus is in this place and I want to meet with him. And so if somebody, I mean, like long lost friend is going to be in this place and I have a chance to go be with them, you bet I'm going to move things out of my schedule. I'm going to prioritize this connection. I'm going to make sure it happens. And that is exactly how I see worship time every single Sunday, that we get a chance to come engage Jesus in a way that's different than we can when we're just on our own throughout the rest of the week. And so if you see somebody who's coming to worship time and you see their heart is engaged and they're singing their guts out and they're fully present and they're engaged, then that is a quality. It's one of the 4 things that we recommend you look for and you teach your kids to look for in a potential spouse. And one thing that you definitely want to help cultivate in your kids' lives as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, it's like I said, well, really, this is the faith piece. Like, do they have a relationship with Jesus? But these are good ways to measure if they really have a relationship with Jesus or not, is how do they worship? And that can just reveal hidden things like, do they have an active love for Jesus? And do they love Jesus more than they fear man? Like, they're not too cool to actually engage in worship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Also, this is a setup. If they'll worship Jesus, then there's opportunity for a real connection in that relationship where God can keep working in this person's life. And that's obviously a good thing, because nobody, you marry, your kids marry, nobody's a finished product when they get married, and everybody's a work in progress. And so you want that connection with God for him to be the one doing the work as your child's future spouse is in progress. So first of all, how do they worship? Second of all, how do they pray? And this is one that's very near and dear to Amy and I's life, because in fact, we've got a story about this, that the very first time Amy ever met me, it was at a prayer meeting. There's like 4 or 5 of us gathered around and we're praying for church before the service starts. We're just praying for stuff. And I started praying out loud, and she said, wow. And she said to the Lord inside herself, I didn't hear her say this, but she said to the Lord when she heard me praying, God, when you give me a husband, I want him to pray like that. And the Lord's probably laughing like, oh, he's going to pray exactly like that.
Yeah.
Because
one of the things on my checklist was that I would have a husband who would pray with me and pray especially for the things that were important in my life at that time.
So to me personally, I feel like how someone prays shows a lot more of their relationship with Jesus. There's a lot of people that I see worship passionately because they just enjoy the music and they enjoy the singing and they enjoy the goosebumps that they get and the Holy Spirit moving and all of those kinds of things. And they'll do that on Sunday. But if you hear them pray, you can tell whether they walk with Jesus throughout the rest of the week or whether this is the only connection point that they really have with him. Because when someone prays, if there's a flow in their connection, if there's a sense of intimacy and knowing, then they actually spend time with the Lord. They spend time talking to him. They spend time hearing from him. They spend time in connection with him, in communion with him. So, you just know it's a real relationship. And obviously that's what you're looking for. Also, you get to hear what they're passionate about, just like Amy said. One of the things that brought her and I together was, really this was the main thing that brought us together, was we would pray together basically at least once a week for like a couple of hours. And in that time, if we were passionate about different things that were, two different groups of things that are both groups that are worthy of being passionate about, there wouldn't have been the same synergy in praying together. But because we prayed together, we were able to discover she's passionate about revival in the nations. I'm passionate about revival in the nations. We're praying for these same things. We're not just praying. We're like crying out. Our hearts are engaged. We're pouring this out before the Lord. We're on our faces. We're praying for these things. And so we didn't need to date. We already knew each other so well in the deep places of what really mattered in who we were and what really mattered to us because we prayed together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Prayer really does reveal what is in the heart. And so this is a great thing that we can do even with our own kids then, is teach them how to pray, how to listen, and how to pray scripture, praise, give thanks, cultivating this heart in our own kids so that when they go to have a relationship with somebody, they have already cultivated that secret place in their own heart with the Lord too. Yeah.
So here's kind of a mini bonus, something that's similar, like how they worship, how they pray. Here's something similar that's a little harder to observe, is how they read the Bible. And generally people do that in private, so that's harder to observe. But here's one of the things that I will want to see. Like when my kids start bringing somebody home, you can guarantee I'm going to be asking them, what's God been teaching you lately? And they better have an answer. Quite frankly, they'd better have an answer, because if they don't have an answer, I'm going to start wondering what's their connection with God. If he hasn't been talking to them about something, if they haven't been engaging about something specific with him, then I'm going to wonder just how real and vital is that connection. It's not a guarantee that it's not a real and vital connection, but if there's something that's active, like, yep, I was reading the Bible this morning and God was talking to me about this, and I can feel the life on it, like I know that this is manna, it's their daily bread they're actually feeding themselves with, then I know, like, they're actually connected to the voice of the Lord. And some dear friends of ours, John and Amy Clausen, one of their parenting conference that they do, they call it the Value of the Voice Conference. And they actually talk about how, in the beginning of our lives as parents, of our kids' lives, the beginning of their lives, they are completely dependent on us and on our voice. And our goal as parents is not to raise independent children. It's actually just to gradually transfer that dependence from us onto a dependence on God. And so we're never without a voice leading, teaching, guiding, helping, comforting, etc. it just goes from being a parent's voice to the Heavenly Father's voice. And so we very much, I want to see that if I'm going to entrust my children to someone else or invite someone else to be this person in their lives, to be the mother or the father of my grandchildren, then I want to know that they are staying connected to the voice of the Lord, that He's leading their lives, that He's speaking to them, that He's teaching, He's training, He's correcting, He's guiding, shaping, molding, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I want to see that His voice is active in their lives and they're responding to Him.
Yeah, that's really good. All right. Key number 3 that we teach our kids to look for and watch for is how they serve. How does this person serve? How do they treat?
Do they serve?
Do they serve? This is really great too. Like, for a long time we've homeschooled our kids and just always been around a lot at home, but we give them a lot of jobs to do at church too. But it really is great to take our kids somewhere else where there's an opportunity to serve and see that gift in them. Because sometimes I think like, man, I spend all this time cooking and cleaning and doing stuff for them, and I ask them to do chores and they moan and groan. But when I take them somewhere and there's an opportunity to serve, our kids jump in and they serve. Like, they have really great hearts to serve. And so we encourage our kids to look at whether other people have this gift and grace of service on their life also. My brother was dating a girl a while back, and he brought her to the family so we could meet her, and we began just, conversing and trying to get to know. But there were little things that we could see that she was not one who was very like wifely or motherly or willing to serve and dote on people. Well, it turns out that a whole bunch of stuff happened, and we were like, well, I'm thankful that was all revealed and she got taken out of his life. But it was in the serve or the lack of service that we really began to see some character flaws, because there was this entitlement and if somebody is willing to serve, then you can see that they have character and grace for taking care of other people. Because when you get into a marriage, when you get into parent situation, you're going to need to have the ability to humble yourself and serve.
Yeah. And also it shows, it can show a level of just self-confidence and security in who you are and your identity, that it doesn't have to be about you. Like, you can make life about something bigger than you. You can lay your own interests down. You can serve somebody else. Obviously, that can be taken overboard or to an extreme where you're serving because you have no sense of identity. And so you glom onto other people in an unhealthy form of service that's like, oh, I need to serve you because if I'm on my own, I don't know who I am. That's a different subject. We can cover that another day. But you want to see that somebody has a heart to just care about the world around them, to make a difference in the world, that they see themselves as somebody who can make an important contribution, and they are engaged in doing so. And I don't care necessarily what that service looks like. Like, they can be volunteering on worship team, or they can be volunteering in the church nursery, or they can be taking care of an elderly neighbor, or they can be
helping to clean up dinner.
Helping clean up dinner, right? If you have them over to their house and they just sit there and they don't help clear dishes or whatever else, like, it's just helping and serving. It tells you a lot about their work ethic, which obviously that makes a big difference. If this person's going to help make a financial contribution to your child's future, these are just really practical, real life things. And I know that I grew up in a very hopeless romantic, watching musicals and all that kind of thing. And like, life is all a musical and we're just hopeless romantic type of personalities. And this conversation kind of violates that in me. I'll be honest. Like, part of me is like, oh, but this is so just not romantic. Like, you're right. It's real life though. And so, obviously if your child's potential spouse is also the romantic type and all of those kinds of things, that's awesome and that's great. But you really want to see that they serve. You want to see that they work hard and that they get engaged in stuff.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, all of these are really great, again, to give your kids a filter and a grid, because when you are a teen or a preteen and you just have all these emotions going on and hormones, you're like, anybody can, and we don't want to like unromanticize it or anything. But at the same time, we want our kids thinking about, like, is this somebody that that would be quality enough to actually allow my guard down to get deep with? Because
Yeah.
I have had so many people come to me and be like, well, I really thought that they were a Christian, but when we got married, like, I realized all this stuff. And it's like those things were probably there before, but sometimes we just get Twitter pated. And so, I mean, romance and feelings are definitely a part of it. God gave us hormones and eyeballs for a reason. But at the same time, if we can help our kids, put up a few filters to determine if this person is even worth taking a second look at, or whether this one goes in friend category for sure instead of potential category, or yeah, definitely worth dating, things like that can just help save them a lot of heartache and confusion.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, along those lines, we really highly encourage that you have these conversations, that this topic we're talking about right now is not a singular conversation you have with your kids, but that this is something you have often enough with them, that, and even young. I mean, I remember having this conversation 4 or 5 years ago with our kids when they're 8, 7, 8, 9 years old, and just saying, hey, obviously I'm not trying to stir up any romantic anything between you and any of your friends right now, and not saying that there should be anything like that, but just for the purpose of training your eyes to think this way, your mind to think this way, and your eyes to look this way. If you think about any of the friends that you have in your life right now, which of them, if any of them, have character traits or qualities that you would see as marriageable type things, that you would look for in someone you would marry, and they'd be like, oh, well, this person or this person, and well, what do you see in them? What are those traits? And it was amazing to see just how open to those conversations, and how just able to engage in those conversations our kids were at surprisingly young ages. And so what it does, though, as you have these conversations frequently, is you are training and ingraining in your children what is the kind of thing that should turn their head.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, ooh, there's the really pretty girl, or ooh, there's the really hot guy. It's, wow, did you see how that person worshiped today? Wow, did you notice how that person served? And those are the things that turn our head. Those are the things that catch our eye. And so those are the things that we're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just taking the life opportunities. Like I said, our 4th grader comes home and says this boy was going to bring a plastic ring and marry somebody in class. And that gave us great opportunity to talk about, when would be a good time to date, what makes for a marriage, like why, is this a foolish thing to do or a good thing to do in this situation? Right. And so taking these opportunities, again, to, like Nathaniel said, just lay that groundwork and begin asking their questions and get their framework right, because they are going to encounter other kids, young kids, who are like, I kissed somebody, or I'm dating somebody, or I want to marry this person. And it's like, you're 10 years old. I mean, you don't have a job. You can't drive a car. Are you ready to own a house and have some babies? Like there's just so many things that are like, why would you even talk this way? But having those opportunities are great for laying this groundwork.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Number 4.
Point
number 4.
How they respond to authority. You really want to see how somebody responds to authority, because humility and teachability are absolutely essential traits for life. Because humility and teachability is your key to greater levels of anything that you want in life. Greater levels of joy, greater levels of life, greater levels of confidence, greater levels of wisdom, anything you want to grow in, you're going to have to grow through learning, and you're only going to learn by being humble. So if you're not correctable, if you're not teachable, if there's no honor towards authority in somebody's life, then you're looking at as good as that person's ever going to get. There's not a future there because you're looking at it right now. And so, I mean, even if that person is absolutely amazing in every single other way, if they're not teachable, if they're stubborn and strong-willed and all of those other things, then man, personally, I'd probably stay away. I'd have a lot of very serious red flags on that person because, like I said, you're looking at their ceiling right now. If this is the best form that they're ever going to get, and guaranteed they become a parent, they're going to need to learn a thing or two about how to do that well. Nobody's equipped for all the things that life's going to throw at you by the time you're getting married at 20-something years old. You're not ready for everything that life is going to give you. So you're going to need to be able to learn and be teachable. So you better be teachable. Yeah. Anything you wanted to say on that? I feel like I said that pretty harshly. This is a little strong. Also, there's something to, you can only carry as much authority as you'll submit to, which is really important when you do become a parent, because you have to carry authority as a parent. But if you're not willing to submit to authority, then you're actually sowing those seeds of rebellion and stubbornness into your kids' lives. Like, if you're not teachable, then why should they be teachable as you're trying to teach them? So it's all setting an example, setting a spiritual tone in your home, helping create those spiritual doorways and gateways for God to work, not just in you, but in your generations. It's really, really important to be teachable and humble.
Agreed.
Yep.
Also, just a side note, like if you are single and you're looking for somebody to date, like maybe consider these things in your own life and just begin to measure places where you are really doing well and where you might need some improvement to be some good marriage material too.
Right. Yeah. One little thing on that, on the authority piece, is you see how they engage with their family. And this can be tricky because not everybody comes from a healthy family background. We get that. This isn't easily applicable to everybody, but you still want to see, how do they treat their mom? How do they treat their dad? And especially for looking at potential wives, how do they treat their dad? Because how a woman treats her dad is likely how she's going to treat her husband. And same way, how a man treats his mom is likely how he's going to treat his wife. And not just his mom, but his sisters or other girls. If he's disrespectful, if he makes sexual jokes, if he's crude, if he puts women down, if he belittles them, like, oh, but he treats me nicely. He does right now. Mm-hmm. But you just wait, because his general attitude towards women will come out. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to be married to that. Run.
Right.
Yeah. So here's the bonus. I hope that all of these things are helpful and not just heavy. I know some of them might be a little heavy as well. I don't know. That's how I like things. So I hope you do too. But here's the bonus. All of these things, these 4 things, how they worship, how they pray, how they serve, how they respond to authority. You want to be able to observe those 4 things. And because if you can observe those 4 things, you're going to have an incredible window into the character of this person your child is considering marrying. If you're also able, here's the bonus, if you're also able to observe those things during a time of adversity, you're going to get a window into how deep their character goes. Those 4 things will show you that they have character. Adversity will help you see how deep their character goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, and my brother, he was dating this lady and they got engaged and they were going to get married, and I'm like, I feel like you guys should at least like make it through a fight first, like because that reveals a lot about a person when hard stuff comes into their life. Do they have the character that's going to carry them through that, or are they going to become a totally other person? Because when you get married and you're starting off life together and you've got finances, and then kids come along and that's hard and everything, like, are they going to have the depth of character to keep going? But that's also part of why the faith piece is so important in their
Yes.
real relationship with Jesus, because he's going to help to comfort and refine and be their strength and everything. So those are the things that we talk to our kids about. Like, hey, here's some things that you can kind of weigh this against to find out if this is a crush worth crushing on or a crush worth stamping out and crushing. Just
Friend zone.
Friend zone. Yep. Perfect for a friend, but not for anything more.
Yeah.
Okay. With that, any
let us
parting
know.
shots?
Let us know if there's anything that you would add to this list.
Yeah.
If there's, we would love to gain your wisdom. If there's something that you're like, man, this is a great list, but this is one I'd really like to add as well, then we'd love to add that to our list and talk to our kids about that as well. So let us know.
Yeah. And you guys, just another note on this is that, a parent's voice is actually the most influential voice in our kids' lives.
For sure.
And I tell you, they want to know, they want to hear what wisdom we have in this regard, and as you cultivate a good conversational relationship with your kids, then by the time that they are teens and looking at people, they actually have value for your voice and your input and your wisdom, and they like to talk about these things with their parents. I mean, our kids are definitely like, this is weird, I have these feelings, but I don't know why or what to do, and having those things. And so just cultivating that and realizing and remembering that your voice is the most influential voice in their life. And so if you can come up and have conversation and give them some things to shoot for and ways to process the emotions and the feelings that they have and stuff, they are going to be really, really thankful to have that wisdom. And hopefully we can give them the tools that they need to make wise choices on their own, even when we aren't around.
Yes.
All right. With that, we will see you guys next week.
Bless you.
God bless you.